Hey, mamas, I'm just going to cut right to it. Urgency and motherhood are somehow synonymous, and then you throw a divorce in on top of it all. Need I say more? What ensues? We normalize it. We muscle through. We deplete ourselves. We get lost in the shuffle of it all. And resentment simmers. Unless you're running out of a house on fire, urgency rarely serves us. And let's just call it out. Urgency and divorce don't play well with one another. If you've been in this sacred community for any amount of time, you know I'm always beating the drum for self-care and nervous system regulation. Why? Because it changes the playing field of life and divorce. It helps you remember who you are, what you desire, and how you want to show up in life. It's why I was over the moon to discover Sarah Tacy, my new friend whose work is dedicated to helping women opt out of urgency so they can reclaim their innate power and aliveness. And who couldn't use that? On top of this juicy podcast conversation, Sarah has also created a free 3-day workshop called Opting Out of Urgency. And I reiterate, who couldn't use that? I hope you love listening to this conversation as much as I loved having it. From my fierce mama bear heart to yours, let me share one of Sarah's quotes. Thriving doesn't require pushing harder, moving faster, or suppressing your needs. So get cozy, grab some delicious tea, go for a walk or sit with your eyes closed as you listen in and get ready to exhale. Hi there, mamas. Welcome to the Intuitive Divorce Podcast. I'm Kristen Noel, certified divorce coach and creator of the Best Self Intuitive Divorce, a game-changing program that transforms the experience and outcomes of divorce, one mother at a time. I call it Divorcing Differently. I'm here each week bringing you a quick message to support, inspire, and empower you to achieve the outcomes you want for yourself and your kids. So let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello.
I am so excited to chat with you today and to share your divine beauty and grace with the mamas in the intuitive divorce. So excited, in fact, that I don't want to waste a moment. First, let me start with an official introduction of Sarah. Sarah Tacy is a nervous system specialist and somatic guide for high-achieving women who are done with burnout, but not with ambition. With over 2 decades of experience working with Olympians, CEOs, and women reclaiming their full expression, Sarah teaches how to opt out of urgency and into embodied leadership, where vitality, clarity, and creativity naturally return. Her work integrates neuroscience, somatic healing, and sacred strategy to help women stop performing their worth and start building lives that actually feel good to live. She's the creator of Resourced, a 12-week experience for women ready to reset their pacing, rewire their nervous systems, and rise without overriding. But allow me to add my own 2 cents. My new friend was introduced to me by our mutual wonderful friend, Kate Northrup. And before I even start gushing about nervous system regulation, I want to just state that being in the presence of Sarah, even if only on a Zoom screen, is pure calm. I'm talking immediate relief just by sharing space with her. And I think you're going to get a sense of that today. I've had the pleasure of sitting in a container and being taught by Sarah. On the first class, I almost started to cry. Wait, let me take that back. I did cry. My body immediately exhaled. I knew it was safe and said, yes, this is what we need. More, please. Of course, my wheels started spinning, and all I could think of was how every woman navigating divorce could benefit from her work. So I couldn't wait to share this with you here. Sarah, are you ready to dive in?
Yes.
All right. So, because there's so much I want to share, so much I want to talk about, let's just start with the fact that while self-care is a core tenet of the intuitive divorce, and while I'm always beating the drum that it isn't superfluous, it's strategic in divorce. I feel like mothers are quick to squeeze themselves out of the equation. I would love it if we could just step back a moment and unpack what nervous system regulation is and why it's a total game changer. And where does a mama who's spiraling out, feeling completely untethered, even start?
Mm. I feel like we have three places that I could jump off there. And I want to first say thank you. Thank you for having self-care be a main tenet within the work that you do. Ray Castellino, who is the grandfather or a grandfather of pre and perinatal work, has 8 tenets in which he says if these things existed, children would naturally feel safe.
Mm,
Babies would naturally feel calm, and we wouldn't, I'm going to add this, we wouldn't need necessarily all of the parenting techniques if we
mm,
did these things. The first one is welcome as you are. The second one is mutual support and cooperation, which is can we go from win-lose? Like as a parent, this is what we need, and I'm going to win, and then therefore you lose. Or I even wonder in certain scenarios within relationships, are there win-win possibilities, honoring that sometimes a boundary has to be made, and that when we're in our truth, even though it could hurt another, that in the end it could liberate us all. The third one is pause. I won't go through all 8. Actually, I think the third one is self-care. And what I heard about self-care and how this is going to play into my answer was the first time that Tel Darden, a mentor of mine, said self-care is the basis of community care. I almost didn't process it. She continued on speaking, and I had raised my hand. I was like, well, I think you just said something important. Any chance you could rewind? And she said it again. And I knew in myself that this must be one of the most important things. And my husband and I, this will all play back into your question. It's just a roundabout answer. We're working with a nervous system development person every Friday as parents with a highly sensitive child. And he said to me, it's just important to stay calm. And I was like, I am the calmest person you will meet. And he's like, but you're trying so hard.
mm,
And I give myself like total, I love you so much. You were doing the best you could. I was up 4 to 8 times every night for almost 8 years. And it's hard in those scenarios. But the North Star that he gave me was that our children, our partners, our friends are reading our nervous systems.
yeah.
So they're not reading the words I say. And even when I'm trying to stay calm, then I go, right? Then they're reading that I'm not calm trying to stay calm, right? Like their systems are reading that there is effort. And he's like, if you are authentically,
Now I'm going to interrupt you because
yeah,
you just dropped a real truth bomb there. That is such an important thing to recognize because particularly mothers are they're just trying so hard, muscling through, showing up, putting on the facade, and then they see it as, if we're quantifying it as a win-win, right? Like, but if you actually just accept that it's a win that your child is actually picking up on your energy is reading it is so pure. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? It when we can come at it from that lens,
that's true.
right? We don't
Yeah,
want we don't want to take that away because we can't pretend. We can't
yeah,
pretend we're calm.
right. And right. And so if they had to freeze so that they didn't have to feel our our space, that's another thing. So the beauty in that they can feel it. And the North Star for me was that it held up for me and my husband how important self-care was.
Mm.
And it was just like, oh, this matters. And the more we care for ourselves, and it gets to start with caring for ourselves, the wells begin to fill and eventually spill over. And of course, we can't wait to make dinner for them until we're like, well, let me wait until my well is overflowing. But I can start to be like, oh, what feels more generative? Like when I turn on the music and I'm cleaning the dishes, it's a different vibe. And now it's like, so the question with the nervous system work is, what can I do to be with the scenario that's here and have it feel generative so that I'm not tolerating something and using up energy?
Mhm.
So I have gone off course and I will
Oh, hey,
reroute to the
you go, you
question.
go.
Yeah, to reroute to the question about what is nervous system work. I would say that nervous system work is about including your body in the process. So a lot of times we have these things of if I just have this mindset, if I just say the right thing, if I use the right technique, if I get things done in the right timing, if I get it done perfect, we can start to actually increase stress and shame and guilt. If we include our body in the process, we begin to notice what's real. Whew, I'm exhausted. This is going to have to be a no for now. Oof, this doesn't feel good. I feel angry. This is a boundary violation. And with that, if I don't have the resource to speak up yet, I might say, what other nervous system tools do I have access to? And most of us think of nervous system tools of things that calm us down, but there are also tools that will help us express first. Like I got an email once that was, I felt triggered by, and I was with my daughter. And so first I put my hands on my heart and I did my deep exhales and I realized, oh, this energy wants to move. And so I turned up the music and just kind of let my hair go side to side and threw some like rotating punches and made some sounds. And it was fun for my daughter. It wasn't like, oh gosh, this feels scary with my mom. It was more like she got to see me move my frustration. And if you think of emotions as like energy and motion or emoting even, then I'm tending to my nervous system. And the more I tend to my nervous system and the less I suppress, and the more I can tap in even when resources feel low, the safer I'm going to feel. And the safer I feel, which life is not all about just having safety, but from this place, I get to see more nuanced options. So it's not uncommon, and I'm sure in situations like divorce where there can feel a lot of all or nothing, it can feel, I imagine, like quite life-threatening. It can feel like the thing that you thought was something is not. And so it there's the phrase of course, like of course it would be dysregulating. It's supposed to be dysregulating. And then like what are the layers of support that we can bring in for that? So for me, nervous system work is about bringing the body along, slowing down enough that we can tune into the wisdom, not just the reactions, and then building enough resources over time that we can start to take steps like the next right step again and again. And when it feels like, oh, that was a wobbly step, that wasn't the one that worked for me, then we get to choose again. And just that process of waking up, falling asleep, waking up, and just, oh, okay, my body gets to come along.
Yeah, it's not just about getting through the day. So again, 200 golden nuggets there that I'm going to try to remember that you just said. So one I want to just go back to because we deal a lot of times with moms just really trying to keep it together with their kids as they're going through this because they're just completely overwhelmed. Their to-do list is like rolling off the table and they're just trying to show up for everything. So we really speak to them about normalizing feelings. So when you're in a situation where you feel like, okay, I'm getting really frustrated or I got really triggered, will you have that conversation with your child and say, you know what? I got to turn some music on and I got to dance, move this energy. Like, do you actually normalize
Yeah.
what is unfolding for you?
Yeah. In that scenario, I definitely did. And if it feels age appropriate, like I'm not going to put extra on my child where they feel like
Right,
they have to caretake me, which I also get. I'm like, oh, this is so tender and hard because there are
right.
times where it's like, we're on our knees, the list is too long, the community isn't deep enough, right? There are the times where a friend and mentor said to me at one point, she said, you're in resuscitation mode.
Mm,
And in those places, the choices are different. And how you once thought, like, I would have always said, I love connecting people and I love inviting people places. And I was trying to make sense of like, am I being protective? She's like, you're in resuscitation mode. And so if you think of a nervous system graph where there's there are two horizontal lines, and in between the two lines is your range of resonance, your range of regulation, your window of tolerance. A place where you have choice, a place where you can pause, a place where you can bear to be in the unknown and not lose yourself. that window gets bigger when you're more resourced.
Mm,
And the definition of stress that Jerry Molitor shared with me is that stress is when you have more demands than resources. So
mm,
there are certain times in life that that equation, no matter how brilliant you are at mind, body, soul, medicine, the demands are drastic and the resources are few. And when that window gets smaller, so if people could see me, my hands were further apart, and now those two horizontal lines get smaller and smaller. The space above the top line is hyper. The space below it is hypo, like freeze. Hyper being more like fight or flight, global high intensity, stuff like that. From here and in this perspective, it is so hard. It can be so hard to find gratitude. When people say, like, oh, gratitude practice, my experience is in there. It can be life-saving, but it can also be like, that feels impossible, right? That feels so hard. Whereas when the range is bigger, it's like, oh, yeah, I could find things to be grateful for all day. When the range is smaller, it can feel easier to see victim perpetrator. It can feel easier to feel like it's all on you. And you just can't see how a reality could be any different than that. And so with nervous system work, we also say small pieces. This is Bridget Dixon's lines, small doable pieces over time, which says like, you're not going to find a hack that's going to suddenly make it different. It's going to be the small steps of listening to your intuition if you ever get to peek into it, of choosing one thing for yourself. And then maybe you have a hard day, or maybe you yell at your kid, and then maybe you get a chance to have a redo, which is actually probably more important than always getting it right, is to actually not get it right and do a redo with your kids so they can be like, oh God, that would have been a lot to live up to, the perfection of my parents, right? To like, wow, they're my parents being human and here's a redo.
and also,
So
thank you for validating my feelings.
yeah,
Because when I mean, moms lose it all the time on their kids, right? And
yeah,
divorce, right? So, well, in not even in divorce, right? And then they beat themselves up, and then they compound that with guilt, and it just goes on and on and on. And then I just say, but like, hold on, okay, so what? It is like, we can go back and figure out like what was the setup to that we could potentially avoid for you going forward. But you know what? Sometimes that's why I loved the way you started with this notion of win-win, because sometimes in the mess
mm,
where we really cultivate some gold and some
mm,
because this is where you actually really get to go in there and be human and say to your kids, guess what? It's safe to feel, it's safe to make a mistake, and it's safe to do the repair work. And it's
mm.
safe to apologize and validate and take accountability. There's so much in that space. When I first really started to wrap my arms around nervous system work, I was so excited because it's really one of the core tenets of our program. Because a woman who is going through divorce needs to create a solid foundation beneath her. I always talk about these in-between moments. You're going to have to show up for big decisions, tough conversations, feeling the feelings. So, really leaning into nervous system regulation is just it's going to be your new best friend.
Yeah. Because no, when you talk about having to make big decisions, ooh, I don't know why it feels emotional to me. I'm like, gosh, like when people are in their hardest,
Hmm.
down on your knees, hard, and then it's like, here is one of the biggest decisions you need to make. And it may have to do with kids and it may have to do with finance and
Hmm.
how the heck is anyone supposed to do that? And I know this happens after somebody dies too. There are so many decisions to be made, and where is the room for the grief? And where is the room to, and so it's part of how our society has it set up. And so as one practices nervous system work, we even get to go, oh, like to even have that a little bit of insight of, oh, this is how I act when I'm dysregulated. Dysregulation makes sense, right? It means like more demands and resources, holy smokes, but also it shuts down our ability to think creatively and problem solve from a place that feels good and not from victim perpetrator or from all or nothing. And so if we get to notice that, and then we do have some nervous system tools in our proverbial tool belt, it can be really great to do something that feels good for your body, that resets it back to actually, I am actually okay in this moment. I have a big decision to make. I am actually feeling a lot of grief. I'm actually confused and my body is physically safe.
Hmm.
I have found myself that when I get into a place of like, oh my God, I have 117 things to do in this amount of time, and this is really real, and it's that feeling that it's really real. That when I go do something, especially when I don't think I have the time to do it, it could be taking a bath, hanging out with a friend is a big one for me, where I'm like, I don't have, I, I'm so glad I put this on my schedule 3 months ago, but I have these deadlines that the best medicine for me is to actually go do the thing, like go do the breath work, go lay on the ground, go meet up with a friend, because the problem that felt insurmountable, the way I see it and approach it totally changes when my state changes, which is not a secret, right? That's science, that our state changes
But
how
we
we
have to
perceive.
constantly remind ourselves of that.
It's a
Constantly.
miracle to me every time it happens. Every time that I like, okay, I actually reached out to Kate a year ago and I had this long to-do list. I don't know why it's like also my line of work, right? And I'm like, okay, I had this to-do list. It feels really real. I also feel like I need a bath. And she's like, body first, of course, right? This is like her logo for work, body first. And I laughed that just that I had to have someone remind me of it. And I went and I took a bath, and the all or nothing thinking is I either take a bath and get nothing done, or I do all the stuff and then I get to deserve the bath. A
Mm.
sacred third is that I get to take this 20 minutes, right? I don't tend to want to take hour longs, but if I like, oh, I just, and my body gets to just, my muscles relax, everything changes. When I get out, what I thought was overwhelming is like, oh, that's so doable. And these 5 things are actually can get pushed off till tomorrow. And this one thing is like really important. And now I feel creative in approaching it. And I understand again in more extreme situations where the demands are more chronic and feel really real, I would just say any bits of self-care can be great. I would love to say a thing about the 3 directions map. Do you
Sure.
mind if I?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I just want to also say one thing about this. This is what we always call gathering intel. The conventional narrative of divorce is really all about like an asset grab and hire a shark of an attorney and tug of war over the kids. And what the missing link here is that it's this brilliant opportunity for healing and for revealing and for
Mhm.
becoming.
Mm.
And, you know, so many women lose pieces and parts of themselves along the way. And in this process, the women that lean in and say, you know what, I want to divorce differently, they're just gathering intel when they're curious and when they become aware of all these things that you just said, like, I have these choices. I can like rush, 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 and like get all those things done. And then maybe if I'm a good girl, I'll get that bath, or I can reframe that. And how does that feel when I do that?
Mhm.
It's this reestablishing of a new relationship with self, which is just so beautiful.
I had 3 women on my podcast maybe a year and a half ago. They may have been spread out about 3 months each, and they all or maybe about a year or two on the other side of a divorce. One of them maybe less. One of them was really like in the middle of the process still. And all 3 of these women had 20 plus years in their back pocket of mind, body, coaching, like leaders in their field. And it was so real and so devastating. And their process through, as you said, of intel gathering, of questioning what wouldn't have otherwise been questioned, was so devotional to themselves, was so potent. And this year, I have gotten to really celebrate and go, wow. So my podcast is called Threshold Moments, right? So this is that I get to see the cycle that people are in. And this year I've gotten to see the recoupling that they've had with after like really, deep questioning and the work and the joy and the new choices and One of them I also worked with as a client, and she shares this on the podcast, so I feel like I can share some of it out loud, which was going like, oh, I like mid-century modern, right? Like not knowing what style she liked until she really stepped away to pause and go, okay, I'm going to create my own space. What do I
I
even
know it
like?
sounds ridiculous, but that is, I mean, we deal with that all the time. And women just get to this place where they just feel so cracked open and so vulnerable. And it's almost like, almost paralyzed, right? And then we'll ask them, like, okay, what lights you up? It's like they don't know. It's like I don't know. Like I'm so used to having contorted myself and bent over backwards to make everybody happy and do what everybody needed and that I haven't really attended to what does light me up? What do I want to do? What kind of furniture do I like? What is my style? It was like when you and I were speaking off camera before, and I just said I wouldn't be doing the work I was doing had I stayed in the marriage I was in.
And for me, I'm in my marriage still and have also gotten to the place of like questioning it all. And I think the same process can happen to any woman coupling up with anybody. No matter what the end point of that relationship looks like, can be the ways that and I can talk about the evolutionary reasons why we do it, because we know the societal reasons that are there. When we give little pieces of ourselves over, tiny pieces, oh yeah, you choose, I don't care. Or it can also just be like we're so overwhelmed by keeping up with our work and the kids and the house and all the unseen things that we can't slow down enough to feel like, what do I like? What do I want? And so we give it over and we give it over when we give it over. And I definitely remember waking up one day and looking in the mirror and going like, wow, who am I? I thought that I had taken pride on trying to have like a midlife crisis every day since I was 24 to like, who am I now? What do I really? But like, whoa, I have given myself away to this process, especially having, little ones and sleep deprivation. And there was a point where I was feeling some resentment with my husband, and I realized I was like, if I had the time, I have no idea what I would do.
Mhm.
He knows all the things he loves to do. I don't know what I would do that would be like, oh, that makes me feel alive. And so I got to ask the question, which is part of the having the reticular activating system tool, which is just asking, show me what alive feels like, show me what I actually like. And then like letting the question go. And then life will start to bring you answers and you'll start to notice them because you asked the question. So that part of your brain that filters what's important, what's not, will start to say, oh, this information is important. But I have also had those moments. And the other thing I wanted to quickly go to is that Tracy Blyer shared this out loud on my podcast, which is why, again, I'm sharing it out loud, which was when she was in the depths of despair, unable to get out of bed, pain that felt unbearable to her heart, smoking 2 cigarettes for the day was a resource. So as other resources get stronger and other things started stabilizing in her life and other choices and people, that's something that faded. But again, just to take away the guilt and shame, it's like, oh, when we're in resuscitation, what is the lifeline, right? Before she could, because people would say, like, just work out and just, drink more water, the things that actually are so, so useful. But like at the bottom, and I got to be with her and just like say, oh, this is on the three directions map. This is direction one, soothe and distract. And most people want that to be meditation. They want it to be, but sometimes it's a cigarette, and that's like what's going to get you through the day. And
Mhm.
she's just, I don't know, when I see her now and the light in her eyes and the work that she's been through, I am just like, my heart is so in awe of her. Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to tell us about the three directions. You were gonna the map.
I think that's why, because I was thinking about that first
Yeah,
direction, which
yeah.
is the idea is if you had a graph, and this graph is, I would say, like the child of Peter Levine from Somatic Experiencing, Bridget Fixnins from Alchemical Alignment, and I would say Ray Castellino with the conditions that he talks about creating. And so if you had a map and you imagine on the left-hand side is the bottom of a rainbow and it comes up and then all the way over to the other side of the rainbow represents completion. So the thing that once triggered you is done. It's like, oh, I like you can't even recognize that person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And to get there, there are these things called creating conditions, which might be your ability to build in a pause, to make an authentic choice, to slowly but surely put up some boundary repairs, to create healthy relationships, right? There are these things that create environments within you and outside of you that when the activation happens, you don't have to be like, okay, I'm going to butterfly tap my arms. I'm going to 4-7 breathe, right? Like you don't have to use all the tools because your environment has changed inside and outside so much that the old trigger isn't triggering anymore. The second direction is when the activation happens and we don't catch it and we just start looping. And that's the place where it's all or nothing thinking. I must, I can't. And it usually keeps looping until we, collapse in bed or we just whoosh. And the first direction is soothe and distract. And the reason why it's worth mentioning, it's not better or worse than the third direction. It's just a stage where this could be our yoga practice, which could be really, really helpful for a long time until at some point it's like, oh, I'm dependent on this in order to get through the day, right? It's like it could be a martini, it could be meditation, it could be ecstatic dancing, it could be taking your hands to your heart. It's like anything, it could be scrolling. Anything that as you get activated, if the activation would throw you off so much that you just have your way of coming back down. And the work and the alchemical alignment is to like, can we take the shame and guilt off and go, oh, this is life saving at the moment? It doesn't have to be our forever thing, but in the moment, it's life saving.
I love that you bring that in because again, we all automatically start judging ourselves. We're ready, triggered, and then we do something and then we add to it. It's like adding salt to the wound. But yeah, so, so, so powerful.
Mm,
I want to also talk to you about like when I was laughing because when I was reviewing the topics that you speak and teach about, I felt like a bobblehead on the dashboard of a car nodding, like, yes, that speaks to me, and yes, that speaks to me, and that speaks to me, and that will speak to all heart-centered, intuitive, caring mothers out there trying to divorce differently.
mm,
One of the things that I really would love if we could just dive into is let's talk about opting out of urgency and how that shifts everything. Because when you're faced with divorce, whether you initiated it or you had it dropped in your lap, everything feels urgent. And the truth is, it rarely is.
mm,
But that's the way we're perceiving it. And that's the state we're in when we're triggered. But what does opting out mean to you? And what does it look like?
mhm. Thank you. I'm very excited to talk about this. I'll just quickly say I have a 3-day course coming up on this. And when I was thinking about, well, what would my 3-day free workshop be? And I thought it was going to be suppression to expression because I'm pretty passionate about that and changing the idea that nervous system work is just about calm. And then the more I felt into it, I just kept coming back to, wow, so much of the gold, so much of what I imagine is like a key in the keyhole for transformation, for transmutation, for a sense of aliveness, a sense of self happens when we can slow our pace down just a little bit to question our reality, to take a pause, to do something that feels resourcing to ourselves. The only reason why I'm doing this by days right now is because it's like the three parts of opting out of urgency where I see it being so potent, and then we could weave it into divorce. On day one, we're looking at pacing because when we get into the urgent pacing, the more momentum we have, the less we can feel. This can be a super gift when feeling feels like more than we can handle. But where it starts to hurt us is that we can't see the nuance. So when we're going at really fast pace, we end up reliving the cycles and the patterns and all of the defense mechanisms that we learned when we were little, and we use them in present time as adults. And they may have been life saving for us at one point, but it may not be the best option now. And so, as we learn different strategies to caretake our systems, we can begin to slow down and see some nuance. And the second day is about moving from all or nothing thinking into sacred thirds, things that we didn't even know existed. And
Mm.
they really seem impossible. Like when it's like, this is so real. Like I have to do this thing, but I can't do this thing because of this. It feels real and it feels insulting for anyone to tell you that there's another way because it would be like they just don't get it. And the way that it's often done when Bridget Vixens does double binds, she generally has two fists. And so if you were to make two fists and really hold them together, this is where I go back to my anatomy ears. And then bend your wrists a little bit and notice how you feel. Notice where your breath goes. What do you notice?
When I do this, I feel like I just like stop.
Mm, you can, yeah, you stop. You can, like, it can feel powerful too, but a lot of times what happens is the breath comes up high
Mhm.
and we go a little bit more into like it is actually like a fight mode, right? And so our
Right.
physiology
Yeah,
changes just
right
by
up
making
here.
this. Yeah.
Like right
And
here. And that, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so you can look at them and go like, I must do this. I can't do this. And then she'll have you open up your hands. And what I like to do from there, if your listeners were to think of something that really feels like a double bind, you can begin to look at the two things and say, first we get to validate it. Oh yeah, that is really true. I see that. And that's true too. Is it 100% true? Which is where I'm kind of pulling on Byron Katie a little bit. Is there any other option that's there? And I can start to go back and forth, and I don't need to get the answer in the moment, but sometimes the sacred third will immediately come through where there's like, oh wait, I've done it with people with finances before, and it's so cool. Or they're like, oh, and I just have this over. Like they see that the double binder and that, oh, there is actually this avenue that I totally missed. I've done it with things with my kids before, like feel so stuck. And if I just wait a little bit and again, tend to my body and do some of the nervous system tools, I can see another way where there's a win-win scenario for my kids and for myself. I've seen it in business. Kate talked about it when she was trying to lean into relax money. And it was so true that her creation was the foundation for her family's wealth and money and, just like living day to day. And it was also true that if she continued at that pace, that she would also be sick and in bed like her husband was. And so it was true, but the sacred third came through like, okay, I'm going to go put my feet in the grass. Hey,
Mm.
I'm going to go pray to the water and ask the goddess questions about business. She shared this again on a podcast, so that's why I'm sharing it out loud.
Mhm.
Um, and so her sacred third didn't come right away. It came in pausing long enough to do something that's slightly regulating and doing one next step at a time. And it breaks the cycle of urgency of like, but it's absolutely true. And I have to do this thing. And when we stay in that place, it
Mhm.
drains our energy even
Yeah.
more. So if you think of how drained a mother is who is going through divorce, we actually drain our energy even more if we stay in the chronic loop of urgency.
As I'm listening to you, I keep hearing, what keeps coming up for me is the word curiosity,
Yes.
right? So when we're curious, and what I'm hearing also is many times we're in that state, we can accept that two truths can coexist, but they're not the only, it's not the only story.
Yes.
And that I'm really curious what my sacred third is. If you can't see it in that moment, maybe what would feel resonant is to say, I'm curious what it is. Like, be playful. Like, this is the
Yeah.
other thing. Women have to give themselves permission to be playful and to invoke a little wonder and to harness the power of their curiosity and their intuition. And it doesn't have to be this. It can be this. It can be this. And what is the sacred third? I'm curious. I love this. It feels like such an invitation for mothers to just like accept that it may feel this way right now, but you don't like that it feels this way. So invite something else to come in and make a little space for it to like sneak in there and let you know what it is.
Totally. And this is the idea of when you say statements like, show me, may I see this other truth, right? It's like we're just asking our brainstem. I believe there's more than just, there's quantum physics. I think there's more to it than just the brainstem now being able to see. But when you say curiosity, curiosity lands in the range of resonance, in the range of regulation.
Mhm.
Our ability to live comfortable enough in the unknown is in that range of regulation. I found when I was about to do a big live presentation in front of a couple hundred people, there was this part of it where I'm like, oh, I've never done this part as an experiential thing with a whole group of people. But I was teaching about pacing and the unknown. So I was like, well, part of this is to like be able to be in the unknown and see what happens and be responsive in the moment. And that lives in the range of resonance. And so, yeah, curiosity, being able to withstand the unknown. Because
Mhm.
sometimes when I've taught double bind sacred third work, I'm like, my people need to find their sacred third, otherwise I failed them. And like, oh, actually, Sarah, what I learned in that particular session was the gift of getting out of the brain sometimes. So the one that I just gave you was kind of a brainy way to kind of consider something. And another way is that when we do something like breath work or we do something like dancing and drumming, or we're doing something that's not in the mind at all, our state shifts enough that our brain will begin to see different options
Mhm.
that we didn't see when we were in our beta brain waves, trying to figure out the same way we've always done it. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
curiosity and
another,
also just changing our state whenever we can.
yeah. Well, I mean, because the truth is, few like uncertainty and the unknown. Few people can really sit in that container and say, "Hey, this is great. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, how I'm going to pay my bills, or what's going to happen."
Yeah.
Likes, nobody really likes that. But what we also talk about a lot in the program is kind of harnessing the evidence of where you've taken those brave steps before and where you've proven yourself right, where you've proven yourself brave and curious and courageous to just go with it and know that you're going to find your right answers. Nobody likes discomfort. Nobody likes to, turmoil and upheaval and everything else. But the sooner we recognize, okay, this is a shitstorm. I don't, I'm not cool with what's happening here, but I can pivot faster because I am aware of it. I have some tools. I'm going to harness the power of my intuition and the evidence that I've garnered from places I've done it before.
Mm. In the nervous system world and in week 1 or 2 of my course Resourced, we do something called starting with health. I attempted to do it in our first relaxed money call, but it went a little bit more into pacing though. And it is just that it is gathering what is presently stable, what is presently well, what is presently here in support of you, but also as you're naming, going into the past and going, wow, look at all these other times that I was in the unknown and how I grew from it, but I couldn't have known in that moment how good life was going to get or what I was going to grow from it. Or look at this, to really start to build that up because, again, our brainstem, for the sake of survival, tends to remember whatever state you're in, it tends to remember the things from that state. And so if you're in the place of activation, it might remind you of the times that you were activated without seeing the other side of the arc of when you got through it. So for you to broaden the picture for these women, to remind them of the wider picture of And also, just remember how strong you are. And here are all these other cases in which you've done it. And when you remember your sovereignty, when you had that boundary repair, and you get to remind them over and over again, I think it's so beautiful. It's also the work that we would do before going in on a somatic session. Find stability, tap into the challenge, come back to the stability. When you're in the challenge, call in resources. So yeah, I'm just like, as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm like, oh, these women are so lucky to have you. This is such a beautiful program, and what an incredible layer of support while going through something. And the one tenet of trauma and trauma physiology is feeling alone. So
Mm,
it's feeling without choice, feeling hopeless, and isolation. So even
mm.
though you're around other people, you feel unseen, unknown, and misunderstood. And so to have you having this program where women can see, oh, there are all these other people going through this. And I'm not the only one who's strong or who's confused or who's hurt or who's powerful or, whatever the range of being human is, to be able to share that in a group and then have you bring forward all of these beautiful reminders and tools is it's such a gift. And I'm just so
It
glad
is so
you're doing it.
powerful. It is so powerful when you know when you gather women together. And I was never really a group coaching person. Did not really understand the power of that. But let me tell you something. You put mamas in a room together, I mean, there's nothing more powerful. And the women in our group are in various stages. Some are really at the beginning, and some are almost on the other side. And there's this incredible reflection that goes on. And when one woman is in that container and she is listening to the story of someone who's just had a win, or, we're celebrating something, it's like she can see a piece of her own reflection in that story. And it's really powerful because it's almost like, oh, well, if she can do it, if she can do it, I can do it. And there's just this incredible like these are mamas. What do mamas do when they get together? They mother each other.
Mm.
It's a really sacred container, and it's such a part of this journey. And I really wish every woman going through divorce had this support, because it is this opportunity to go through divorce completely differently and to heal and reclaim and become, and it's going to inform everything that's ahead, and I sort of like I'm like a secret undercover healing agent, because the way I get to them is I always talk to them about their kids, because if I speak about their children, a mama will stand before an oncoming train to prevent her kids from feeling anything, any pain, they would do anything, right? And then I remind them that how they're showing up for themselves is, and this goes back to actually to how we started this conversation, is like they're witnessing and feeling you. You are modeling for them right now. It doesn't matter what the outcomes of the divorce are per se. What does life feel like right now? What do you feel like? How are you modeling getting through feelings or navigating difficulty or life adversity or roadblocks? And this is the way it's like, oh, just kind of like stops them. And then they realize, like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't want to model that for my kids.
Mm.
I want to teach them something different. I want to give them different tools, and I love this notion of, again, whether it's nervous system regulation, whether it's self-care, whether it's all commingled, we always invite mothers just to sort of like do what you said, turn the music on. House chores have to be done, but guess what? Turn it into a little bit of a dance party. You empty the dishwasher, you set the table, you put this away, I mean, there's myriad ways that you can come at this, but you can't put your own needs at the bottom of the laundry basket.
It's almost like when I said nervous system work means your body gets to be included. And so even within a family constellation, it might be like sometimes your needs are coming last and sometimes they go first. It's like when they're chronically last, right? And I think that's what most mothers do, is like chronically last
Hmm.
versus almost like a dance when you're reading like, oh, right now my kid has 104 fever. And so some of my needs are going to go on the back burner. And can I get myself a cup of tea? Can I play jazz music? Right. Like, and how can I resource myself while I'm in that challenge, while I'm in the activation? How does my body get to be included?
Mhm.
And yeah, sometimes like when you're running a race, like it's more taxing. And sometimes there's the post race, right? And there's 3 weeks after, there are going to be different stages of how we include our body. But I do think that that is a dance. And I keep having this vision, so I'm just going to say it out loud. It's, and I really want to be super clear when I describe this, which is that I have seen sometimes that one of my daughters will just keep poking. I mean, my daughters will poke at each other, but sometimes I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's like she's just fighting to fight. And I had just gone through something at a friend's where I called it like a feminine rage ceremony, but I don't know what she actually called it. But I got to like really have these primal screams, and I was like around a fire and kind of like dancing low to the fire and just feeling all my feels. And so I found myself immediately, instead of trying to go into the headspace of how do we calm her down and how do I, or how do, like, I wanted to get there and fix it because I just wanted to stop, was I got on the ground and I was like, do you want to fight? And it was playful. So what I want to differentiate here is I had already met my own needs. I was not using my daughter to meet my fight needs.
Right.
Mine were already met. But because I had met them, I could recognize hers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. So then
That's a
before you
beautiful
know it,
distinction, by the way.
it's super important.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would just like really want to say if someone's feeling dysregulated, like I'm not suggesting like go like
Fight it out
go
with your kid.
correct. Right. Like I met mine with other adults in like a really sacred ceremony space. And then I could recognize, oh, she's having fight needs. And by the way, you look at little animals and they're always tumbling around and wrestling and then like pulling on the parent's ear. And how much time do we really give our kids to wrestle? And I know sometimes I'm like, I'm too tired. But the cool thing about what is generative is that it's not unusual that once I start wrestling, I start laughing and my energy goes up.
Hmm.
So I often think that I'm too tired to do the thing. And then I just like will take what we'll consider I call the on-ramp, where you're just like, what's the smallest piece of a yes that I do have that's authentic? And so for that child, and actually they both like it, is that we'll pillow fight and I forget about it. And then we'll pillow fight. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's had all this pent up fight energy all day and nowhere to put it. And when
Hmm.
we start pillow fighting, she is just like full laughter, full joy, making the whole ha, like the yell. And then, and I also, because there's a 4 year difference, they are allowed to come at me, but not at each other. Um, and yeah, this is just another way of like, this is what I'm calling like a generative action, where I'm not tolerating something and trying to push it down and suppress it with a feel good feeling. I'm saying like what outlets would actually give me energy as I'm processing it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think again, just going back to curiosity, I don't know what that answer will be for people
Hmm.
listening in. My daughter the other day was playing with a hose and it was like on full force. And I know she was upset about something. This was my younger one. And I forget when I asked her about like wanting to, and she's like, I know it's okay. I'm getting it out through the force of the hose. I was like, oh, that's so
At least she
creative.
wasn't spraying you.
No, she wasn't spraying me. It was just like on the deck, and there was like she was just
But
like,
how great.
and I'm like, oh my God, that's so creative. I would have never thought of that. But she just like found the thing that helped her out. And I'm just so into having girls that are finding ways to just like move energy
This is
and
this
not
is
just
this is the
suppress it
point.
all.
And I also love that you're saying this because it literally is circling back to how we view when our kids are acting up and how our knee-jerk reaction is like, gotta make it stop, gotta soothe them, gotta like make them feel better, as opposed to say, okay, and obviously this takes your own regulation to do this, to be, in the presence of mind to be able to do this, but to say they need to move some energy. My hugging them, I mean, I love them and I'll hug you, but it's not going to move your energy. They have energy to move the same way we have energy to move.
And the energy generally needs to be moved, not always, but often it's like that energy wants to be moved before the hug. And the compression and the
Right.
connection of a hug can be such a beautiful, integration and like, wow, I saw you in your wild self and I saw like I witness you in that and I'm here for a hug, right? Like you get to like I know I'm making like light of moments that can be hard and it's also really beautiful
No,
when we get to
you're
have
not
that.
making light of it because the fact of the matter is no matter what's going on at any moment, and there are a lot of these moments in divorce and a lot of big feelings that get pushed aside for children. And a lot of times as parents, we just want to pretend everything is okay, but like you said, they're feeling it. They're feeling the energy of the house. They're feeling what you're coming home with. They're feeling what you're pretending to hide. So if we can normalize feelings, if we can normalize moving energy, and we can normalize rage in healthy ways and the expression of that. And then also come in and say, okay, you know how that's like you've had a good cry and then you just like somebody hugs you and you just like
Hmm.
you just melt. But you really
Hmm.
can't melt until the expression.
Right, because otherwise I feel like someone's trying to hug away
Right.
their discomfort with my feelings. Right? I'm not like I don't have to mentally
Right.
say that, but there can be this like I could almost feel like a bristle in my body or a tightness. Whereas if I like really had the expression, it can be such a sweet, it's called dorsal vagal rehab when you can fully collapse into somebody and feel safe in your body.
Yeah.
It's like it's a really beautiful thing. I
And
wanted to say there's something came up for me with Dr. Becky and Huberman, and I feel like he was asking that question of when you have something hard, say like a divorce, how much do you tell your kids?
Mhm.
And I listened to this maybe 8 months ago. So let's see what I what comes forward for me. There was an element of which she was saying the truth matters in the package that feels that not even in a white lie, right? Like what parts of this can be said in truth because like as we're saying, the kids picked it up.
Mhm.
And so if we suppress it and pretend everything's okay, we're breaking up their own intuition rehab. This doesn't even have to be a rehab, right? We're breaking up their own intuition. So their intuition is saying something's off, something's not right. And if they come and say, is everything okay? And we say, yeah, I'm fine. Now their intuition is confused.
Mhm.
And they start to think, oh, I can't trust my intuition. My mom, who I trust, says it's totally okay. So then it's like, what part can I say? I can say, um, you're safe. I got you.
Mm.
Feeling confused about something in my own life, or and I'm feeling sad and I'm finding ways to move through it so that their intuition can be like, oh, okay, mom is working through
I
something
am
and I'm safe.
so grateful to you for bringing that in. It's such an important thing. This is why we like to work with women at the beginning, so we can really help them set up these conversations. Because as you said, there's only so much that you can hide from your children. Now, your children, and there's a differentiation. Your children don't need to know all the details and they don't need to know something until it's real. Because if you start saying, well, mom and dad are, we might live here and someone might live here and we might, that's going to be very stress inducing. But there are ways and age appropriate ways that are palatable to them. Just bite size morsels that they can latch onto. You cannot dismiss feelings. You cannot just pretend that nothing is going on because, like you said, you are robbing them of their own intuition. You are robbing them of validating what's coming up, what they're feeling, what they're sensing, what they're knowing, because they're connected from you. You birthed them.
Mm.
You birthed them. Of course they feel. Of course they're feeling.
The science is not exact. The numbers have been in different places, but the idea that 97% of communication between people is nonverbal. And so we're processing and we're subconsciously to unconsciously processing feelings of safety, feelings of, someone says something, well, their head is like saying no, but they're saying something in the affirmative. And our bodies are just like, oh, I feel confused. Why do I feel confused? Why does it? And we might not be able to consciously even figure out why we feel off. And so when we say things that are authentic, it can be so affirming to another person's body of safety. And then there are other studies that show authenticity is our highest vibration, more so than love. And it's just being in our truth. And there is also the theory that every time that we lie that there's a contraction in our body. It takes up energy. And so again, we get to say in the scenario you were just saying, I don't know if we'll live here or there, you can even just say, I'm really in the process of figuring out the next best step, but I really trust myself to do that. It's not easy, but I know we're going to get through this. And I have layers of support. Like it might be like grandma's gonna, a layer of support. And you get to name other layers of support. So the kids aren't like, oh my God, it's on me to fix my mom. It's like, I get to be, these are true things. And I'm going to also affirm any other, almost like you said with the women, where you get to point out all the other times that they've been successful. Like they could even do that with their kid. I've had this other time in my life where I was like, felt scary, but on the other side, this really great thing happened. Like I know I have this, even though sometimes I'm worried that I don't, you
Yeah.
know?
But it is so validating. And it's so important that you brought this up because the curiosity and the safety with your children is everything. And everything stems from the condition that you're in and the foundation that you create beneath you so that you can show up for these conversations. Because as a mama, mark my words, they're going to ask you a question you are not prepared for at the time you least want to be asked it. And by the way, you don't always have to answer every question. There are ways of validating someone's point, or wow, that's a real, you literally even just saying, you know what, that's a really, really important question. And would you mind if I just like thought about that for a minute? I just, that was a really smart question. Like, especially with little ones,
Totally.
you know?
I love that because again, you're opting out of urgency. You're opting out of, I have to answer their question and it has to
Right.
be good and it has to be right. It's just like, oh, I mean, I don't have to restate this thing you just said. It's so perfect. That's,
Well, and then you don't say something that is inauthentic that you're going to regret, and then you're going to have to go back and repair.
and if you do repair, great.
And if you do
And,
repair, that's great. But the
and so
more
there's
you become
choice in
aware
there.
of that, like when someone asks, and really this is any conversation, right? When someone asks you a question that you're not prepared to answer, pause. Just pause, give yourself we just think there's this like, oh, I have to give an answer and I have to give an Academy Award-winning speech. No, just pause. Just breathe. You're allowed to think about it. You're allowed to just validate someone and say, like, wow, that's a really tough question. Or that's a really great point you bring up. That's really curious. Would you mind if I think about that for a second?
Mhm. I love this.
There's about 1,700 other questions that I wanted to get, but we are like so at time. I mean, we're just obviously just me and Sarah, you got to come back. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
have to come back.
Oh my God, I'd love to. This is so good. I am loving everything. I love where we ended. I love that you're doing what you do. I'm so happy that you're doing what you do.
I'm gonna just tell you, I'm really happy that I'm doing what I'm doing too. It's like all
Yeah.
roads led to here, and I feel like I have a slice of grace every day walking beside women. You were asking about my necklace, my butterfly, and it really is about this witnessing of transformation of women coming back to themselves and healing. And we were talking about the butterfly and like when you're in that cocoon and you're just kind of struggling to get out of something that feels uncomfortable. And I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know if it's going to work out, but you don't really have a choice. You got to keep going. And then the first wing comes out. You know what I mean? It's then those wings spread. And I know you witness this every day. When women come back to themselves, when when they regulate their nervous systems and when they embody their worthiness, their needs, their desires, there's nothing more beautiful. It's such a gift to the world. And so
Yes.
I just want to tell you that, Sarah, your work in the world is so needed by every human being walking through this human experience. And I am so grateful to have you here with us today, sharing your heart and your wisdom and your intuitive self with our mamas.
Mm.
And thank you for infusing all of us with your calm and instilling it in every aching soul out there. But before we go, I need you to tell everyone about this upcoming, you've mentioned it, but we need to hear
Yes.
more about this free 3-day workshop, opting out of urgency, because you had me at your tagline. Thriving doesn't require pushing harder, moving faster, or suppressing your needs. And also, please tell us the best place to find you. Of course, I'm going to put all of this and all these links in the show notes, but if anyone wants to follow you like right now, right here, where do they go? And how do they sign up for this workshop? Because obviously, after listening to you for like 5 minutes, they're going to be like, I want more of that.
Yes. So on September 2nd, the cart's open. It's free. I say the carts, but that's just part of signing up for opting out of urgency. And it is will be recorded as well. So when you sign up, if you can't be there in the middle of the day, it's September 15th, 16th, 18th, and 19th. And so if you can't make it there on the day, the recording's there. You have all weekend to re-listen to it. And it's, as I said, we're working on pacing, finding the sacred thirds. And the last one is our relational aspects of being able to stay in the tension field when you're creating new boundary repairs. And for me, when someone asks me what is my why, it is also around liberation.
Mm,
So yeah, urgency is part of supremacy culture. It is part of the thing that is meant to keep us feeling like we don't have enough time and everything is an emergency. And in that, we lose choice and we lose ourselves. And so, as we begin to opt out of urgency, we get to slow down to go, who am I? What do I even like? And if I just paused before I answered this question, would my answer still be the same? And the more that we recognize that we have choice and the more that we can resource ourselves in the unknown, the more space there is in that tension field for a new blueprint to arise. And so I am so thrilled that I get to present this over 3 days, 90-minute sessions. And I'm psyched that it's free. It feels, again, to the Ray Castellino thing of welcome, welcome as you are. There is an option after it for a course that's paid. But what I'll say is that the 3-day course in and of itself is gonna be so good. It's not gonna leave you wondering, like, oh, I have to do this in order to get, like, it will be enough to take home and just practice the practices. And so I'm just really psyched
but be
for anybody.
forewarned, because if you're in that container with Sarah, you're going to want more.
Yeah.
But, and also
Yeah,
bring your
because
body.
resource is next, and that's the 12-week program, and you get daily drips. So every morning there's a 5 to 10 minute integration and meditation practice. So there's like so much goodness, but we get to say, like, what is my right timing? Do I want to do it all this year? Just pieces?
When does
So I
that
say,
start? When
welcome
does
as you
that
are.
begin? Resourced.
September 30th,
September 30th. Okay.
a Tuesday, and it will end right before if like it'll end December 16th. So for many people, there's school vacation around that time. So it ends
Oh,
kind
it's
of
perfect.
before all of that.
It sounds like such an incredible gift to self. And also, I love the timing of this because, you know, women always have excuses about like, oh, it's bad because kids are, this, that, whatever. Well, what's great about this is kids are back in school and it'll end before the holidays. And you will be renewed and resourced and regulated.
Imagine going into the holidays and having done boundary repair work, noticing that you have desires, noticing how to tune into yourself when things are getting to feel like too much, making choices that are authentic as you're going into the holidays. And then when you start to enter like new year, new you, that you can be like, really? Is that true? Is that what I
Yeah,
want to
the
do
newbies are
now?
already here.
Or like, what feels real now, right? So you'll have
Yeah.
all of these tools going into a time of year that I think I heard Glennon Doyle call it the season of muchness. And so to have choice in a season of muchness and to have a community, because part of this is also community. And the replays for that course are also available for an entire year. So last year, I had a few women who went through it 3 times, which it's
Amazing.
totally, yeah. It's like,
Amazing. Well, I mean, also, listen, we live in a very busy world. There's so many distractions, and there are so few places where we can come and really reset and restore. And another thing I was thinking about is like, well, I mean, divorce is a season of muchness, you know,
yes.
and it's also an incredibly triggering time because it's like the season of first, like the first holiday
Mm.
you're without your kids, and how do I navigate that? Or the first holiday that doesn't look like all the holidays have in the past. There's a lot that's going on. So it's like anything that women can do, particularly when navigating something like divorce, to set themselves up in such a beautiful way is incredible, is so transformative. As I always say in this program, these skills aren't divorce skills. These are life skills. Because once you really start to move differently through life and you get to move through the ups, downs, and all arounds, you just move differently. You pivot quicker. You are more quick to be aware, oh, yeah, this is happening and this is what I need.
So good.
Yeah.
There's, I'm like, I don't want to, like, that's such a good endpoint. I'm like, and I want to just name that there's a part in our biology because many of us started school around September-ish that there can be that impulse of like, I want to learn something for myself.
Mm.
So when I was dealing with the fact that at points I was feeling urgency about the timeline of opting out of urgency, my friend Jen Rassiope was like, do you want to change your launch time? Which I've totally done that in the past and kind of, oh, I'm making this all up. So I get to like I'm making up the dates is what I'm saying.
Right, right,
And
right.
and I tuned in and I was like, no, this is the timing I want. And then in order to have agency within urgency, I can say, well, what else do I want to change? And what else will I let go of? And then in that process, have also learned a ton about, wow, the more that I take care of myself in a time where I don't think I have time to take care of myself, the magic that is coming out is incredible. And that the time limit gets to be a crucible
Mhm.
of refinement, right? It gets to be this really beautiful invitation for me to really focus and make choices that are aligned with what I feel most devotional to.
Mhm.
And so there is, I really wanted it to line up with 2 to 3 weeks after kids have started school so people can be back in their schedules and before the holidays. So the 12 weeks, I was like, I would have given another week and started in October, but like I really want it done before the holidays so that people can then be like, okay, now I'm
I'm
in
ready.
here and
Yeah.
I've complete like to be able to complete something also can feel really good to the nervous system too. Yeah.
It feels like filling your own cup.
Yes.
It's like right now after a summer, everybody's like, oh, and it's like, okay, a little frazzled. I need to refuel, but I also need to reset and redesign how I want to go into the holidays, how I want to go into the end of the year, how I want to feel, because I want to feel good. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we're going to have 20 other conversations. So,
I know. I mean, I've already said it twice, so I don't have to say it again. I'm just so glad that you're here, being who you be and doing what you do. That's a really big threshold, and it's just so meaningful to not be left alone at a threshold.
mm,
It's like everything.
thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, back at you. Back
Mhm.
at you. And I'm so excited for you to launch this. And we'll be putting more stuff out and make sure everybody knows about it and sharing anything that you've got us, got for us to share. But thank you for sharing yourself with us today.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks for listening to today's episode, but more importantly, for making this time for yourself. If you're a professional, independent mother facing off with divorce, struggling with your emotions, worried about your kids and your future, and want a better way to navigate it all, I've got 2 ways to completely change the trajectory of your divorce and your life starting today. The first is our free divorce workshop. In this training, you'll learn the 3 steps to get off the emotional roller coaster and take control of your divorce so you can save time, money, and heartache for you and your family. Simply go to intuitivedivorce.com/workshop. And the second way is to book a free strategy call with our team, where we'll dive into your situation, your struggles, what you really want, and outline a path to get you there. For a short video and the booking link, go to intuitivedivorce.com/call. Check it out, and I'll see you inside. Now I have a favor to ask you, Mama. If you enjoyed this conversation and were inspired in your own divorce, please subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss future juicy talks. And I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review so together we can help other mamas walking in the same shoes.